zusammen die Geschichte über den Schweinkopf, den Hund und den lieben Red Baron.
Welcome back to the arcade. Today we're going to be doing hopefully a repair on one of my games here. And the game today is Red Baron. Okay, so let me get you caught up on what's going on. You probably already know a little bit from the title of the video. Yes, Red Baron is under instrument flight rule conditions. In other words, the game is playing blind. In other words, the monitor doesn't work at all. The monitor's blank. The game plays blind. You can coin it up and play a game, but you can't see anything on the monitor. So that's what we call the game is playing blind. Okay, here is Red Baron. About a year ago, I started to do some troubleshooting on this, so that's why I got the board laying out in the cabinet, because I don't have a test rig for it. So I'm testing the board in the cabinet. So I have it laid out here. Normally it slides in the side of the cabinet like Asteroids right here. And yes, I have it sitting beside my Asteroids. And one might wonder, I have my scope out and I have a test pattern on the scope. And yes, it's hooked up to my Asteroids multigame. All right, well, why do I have a scope hooked up to my Asteroids multigame if I'm working on a Red Baron? Well, I'm not that familiar with the scope and how to set it up, so I figured to get a baseline and to make sure I had the scope set up right. And since Asteroids is sitting right next to the Red Baron, I would go ahead and hook it up to the Asteroids and get the scope all configured, because the Red Baron is blind, so I don't know what signals it's putting out, if it's putting out anything. For all I know, the outputs could be completely dead, but it only takes one of the outputs, the X, Y, or the Z, for not to get a picture. Now the monitor up in here, it's a little hard to see in the Red Baron, but you can see the board back up in here. The spot killer was on, okay? So that's a dead giveaway that I have a problem with the board. Although it could possibly be the monitor, but I've already ruled that out. How did I rule that out? All right, well, I disconnected the monitor from the Red Baron board. The G05 monitors have this Molex plug here that plugs into the monitor. This plug carries the XYZ signals plus the power signals, so you power up and the whole monitor through this one plug. So what I did back a year ago is I took the plug loose from my Asteroids Deluxe, and I moved the cabinets close to each other, closer than what they are now, and I actually hooked the board set from the Asteroids to the monitor on the Red Baron, and the monitor works. So I know I have no problem with the monitor, and I know it's a board problem. Okay, so let me go around here and I'll show you. I have my Asteroids multigame here, which has the Asteroids Deluxe Lunar Lander kit installed, and I have the test pattern on the screen. So this test pattern is a little different than a standard Asteroids test pattern. Asteroids, the standard pattern, doesn't have all these extra words written on it. It's just basically the grid. This was an upgrade to the multigame kit, and but it's still good for testing. And when you're testing the output of a board, checking the voltages or whatever, you're best to have it in the test pattern. So that's why I have this in a test pattern. So let's go ahead first and we'll test the voltages on the Asteroids board. Then we'll come back and we'll fire up the Red Baron and we'll do the same thing, and then we can compare the voltages on the outputs and see if we can narrow down what the problem is, whether we have a problem with the X output, the Y output, or the Z output. So let me go ahead and set up for that. And let's see. I've just written down a little chart here. Where this is Asteroids, and I'm going to measure the AC voltage on the XYZ plus the DC voltage on the XYZ. So we'll start with that. All right, I got my voltmeter here set to DC volts. So let's do the DC volts first. And let's see, let's do the X first. The X is right here. So let's put it on that. And we are getting a negative 0. It's fluctuating a little bit as it should. Basically is 0.5, 0. Yeah, basically 0.5, negative 0.5. All right. So we're getting a negative 0.5, basically. All right, let's do the Y next. And on Y we're getting all right, now we're getting 0. Ah, my ground came loose. It's kind of hard doing this when you're holding a camera in your hand. All right, but we're going to try to get through it here. All right, we're doing the Y again. And the Y is down here. Okay. And on the Y, we're getting a negative 0.006. So it's almost a dead 0 voltage. Okay. So we'll basically say 0 volts on that. All right. Now let's do the Y. And the Y is, the Z. Okay, I'll get it straight in a minute. The Z is up here. All right, let's do the Z. I'm getting positive 1.6. All right. All right, let's switch off to AC. AC volts. Let's do X. Okay, that's going to give us a baseline for the Red Baron. So let's go ahead and fire up the Red Baron and we'll take voltage readings on that. Okay, let's turn Red Baron on. And it should be on. So let's go ahead and check the AC voltage on the X first. And here is the X output. Range. Okay, here we go. Getting 5.33 volts AC. That's on the X. 5.33. Okay, let's try the Y. Y is over here. Y I'm getting 5.93. Okay. And let's try the Z. See, the Z is where? Right up here. And it appears I'm getting nothing on the Z. Yeah, nothing on the Z output. So 0. All right, let's try the DC. All right. Again, let's try the X. DC. Let me get the right range here. All right. Try this again. Getting a minus 0.3. Minus 0.3. Okay. Let's try the Y. Okay, where you at, Y? Here you are. Huh. Getting over voltage. Let me change the range. Okay, got it now. Ooh, that's bad. A minus 9.3. Minus 9.3. The XY signal should never be over 4 volts, I don't believe. DC. I'm not sure about the AC, but they seem high on the AC too. All right, let's check the Z. See if we get anything on the Z. No, we're getting a 0 on the Z. Okay. It could be that because we got a problem, it looks like with the Y, that might have shut down the Z circuit. Red Baron and Battle Zone, which are basically the same board, they have a, I don't know that much about it, but they have a window blank circuit that I think if one of the signals isn't right, that Windows blanking circuit can shut down the output. Or maybe it shuts down the Z. But like I say, I'm not an expert on it, and I don't know. It's just, I think I read that somewhere. All right, so it looks like we got a problem with the Y, because we got minus 9.3 volts, and that's bad. All right, so let me cut Red Baron off, and we'll go back over here to the Asteroids. And first we'll look at this. Asteroids, we had minus, on the X, we had minus 0.5 DC. We had 0 on the Y, and we had 1.6 on the Z. And that's a working game. On the Red Baron, we had minus 0.3 on the DC on the X, which that seems plausible. But we had the minus 9.3 DC. That's bad. And of course, we still got 0 on the Z. And like I say, I don't think you're going to have any Z if you got a problem with either the X or the Y. That's my understanding. Now, if somebody knows different, please leave a comment in the comments, because I always want to know if I get something wrong, and you can educate me and everybody else and set it straight. So, but that's my understanding. Okay. All right. So, what are we going to do next? Well, first, we want to make sure and see what it should look like on the scope on a working game, which this is what the test pattern looks like on the working game here. So let me sort of focus in on this. And this is out of the manual. I think this was out of either the Asteroids, or it might have been the Red Baron manual. Now I think this is Asteroids. Well, it may just be the GO5 manual. I don't remember where I got this out of, but it's got pictures of what the test pattern should look like. Now, if you look here, the test pattern in this picture is just the grid with the little indications here for, I think that's for dip switches or errors maybe, I don't know, and then it's got the intensity grid. Okay, well, if you look at the scope here, the Asteroids multi-game has the same grid, and it has the little indicator in the middle for the what did I just call that? The intensity meter. Okay, that displays the different intensities. The beam, when it draws the beam, it has, I don't know for sure, but it has different intensities, so that sometimes, you know, an object, the lines or the dots or whatever, can be brighter or dimmer. And I think it's something like 8 different levels of intensity, maybe, something like that. If I'm wrong, correct me, leave a comment. But you don't have to know exactly, you know, I mean, just know that there are different levels of intensity. And that's what the Z circuit does. The Z circuit controls the intensity of what's being projected on the screen, okay? So, on the scope here, we just got the X and the Y in XY mode. I don't have a scope with a Z circuit on it, so everything is going to be the same intensity. Okay, so we'll just get that out of the way. Now, the next picture down here are 2 waveforms, okay? And the top one is the X input, and the bottom one is the Y input, okay? Now, I'm going to put them on my scope separate. I could put them on there just like they got them here, but I'd have to fiddle with the buttons and get everything out of position, and I want to keep the positions in the position they got them in right now, because I'm going to move over to the Red Baron and we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to compare and see which one looks the same and which one looks off. So with that said, I'm going to start with the X channel, which is channel B on my scope. Yeah, channel B. So right here with this control here, I can flip it up to B channel, and that right there is the waveform for the X channel. Okay, and as you can see now, I can move this around on the screen. I can shrink it and whatever, but that's basically all we need to see. And it basically looks similar. It's not going to look exact like this because, you know, the test pattern has more going on the Asteroids multi-game, so it's going to be a little different. But as you can see, you got this nice little waveform, and you got these little things here. So basically, that's looking good. Okay, so now I'm gonna flip it to A channel, which is the Y. Okay, that's what the Y is looking like, and here's the waveform for the Y on a standard Asteroids. And as you can see, I can probably move the position here a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. And that looks pretty normal. So I think we're good there. So now that we know what a good X and Y waveform looks like, or the output, let's hook it up to the Red Baron and we'll do the same thing. Okay, now I got the scope hooked up to the XY outputs of the Red Baron. I've turned the game on. So let's come over here to the scope and see what it looks like. And oh, yeah, it's in test pattern. So that's what the test pattern looks like. And it don't look good. All right. Well, what can we tell from this? Well, everything is drawn from the center of the screen. That's 0, 0. Okay. And let's see here. I think I got a graph. And if we look at this graph, there's the center point. That's 0 voltage. 0x 0y will give you a dot in the center of the screen. All right. Channel A is our Y. Okay. So the Y is top to bottom of the screen, and the X is horizontal crossway of the screen. If you start at the center, if your vertical or your Y goes positive, it'll draw the line up towards the top. If it goes negative, it'll draw the line towards the bottom. Okay. If your X or your horizontal goes positive, it'll draw to the right-hand side of the screen. If it goes negative, it'll draw to the left-hand side of the screen. Okay, what we got right here is we got nothing from the center to the top. So we got nothing from here to the top. So that is channel A, or vertical or Y deflection, and that's the positive side. So we have no positive vertical deflection. And if you remember, when we tested it the Y was a negative 9.3. So that's why everything is going from the center down. All right, now we have our horizontal or X working because we have lines going to both sides of the screen. So, trying to keep this straight in my head now. So X is probably working fine, but the Y is what's bad. So we have a problem in the Y circuit. Now, let's go ahead and see what our waveform looks like. First, let's do the what I believe is the good, which is the X. Okay, so the X is B channel. So okay, there is our X, and the X, with exception, it's a little high. The gain is a little high on here. I reckon I can cut it down some. Yeah, there we go. That looks like a good signal. So we got a good X signal. All right, let's see what the Y signal says. Ooh, see, we got the same thing. On the center part of the screen to the top, we got nothing. From the center part down is where all the signal is, and it goes off the screen. So let's see, I can bring the position up. So that doesn't look right. So we know definitely we have a problem with the Y output. Okay? So that's where we're going to start looking, is at the Y circuit, and see where this thing goes awry. Okay, well, I'm back on this red baron problem here, and I've been thinking about it a little bit and making some more checks, and I think I've come up with a plan. I know that the Y output is bad, okay? It's giving me a negative 9-volt DC reading, and when it displays on the screen, it puts everything down on the lower part of the screen. The X output up here is looking fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Basically, the X and the Y circuit are identical. So what I'm going to do, even though they're slightly different signals, but the circuit itself is pretty much identical. So what I think the problem is one of two things. It's either the DAC, the AM6012, right here at D9, which is the DAC for the Y output, is bad, or the LF1320, which is an analog switch, is bad. Now, from what I understand, you can't check the output of the DAC with a scope because it's not a voltage reading, it's a current reading. So you can't display it on a scope. There's some kind of special way you can do it, but I don't know how that's done. But anyway, the digital inputs from, I guess, the state machine come in over here on pins 2 through 11. All those signals, the digital signals coming into the DAC, looks good. Up here on the DAC for the X output, which is okay, there's nothing wrong with the X output. All the digital inputs look the same on that. So I think I'm good as far as the input into the DACs. Now, from what I understand, in order to check the signal coming off of the DACs, you have to check it at the TL082 op amp on pin 7, okay, which is right here, pin 7. And up here, you can also check it for the X on pin 7. And I've already done that, and we got a good signal on the X, but we have a bad signal on pin 7 of D10, which is the op amp for the Y circuit. Now, I already have replaced, when I put this game in service a few years back, I had both of these op amps go bad, both D10 and A10 up here, in both the X and the Y circuits. They both went bad within an hour after I powered up the machine for the first time. First, I think the Y went out, and then the X went out. So I've already, several years ago, replaced those and put sockets in. So I went ahead and pulled them out just to double check to make sure they were good, and I tested them in my tester here, and they tested good. But just for good measure, I got plenty of them, so I went ahead and stuck another one in, and it's no change. So I know the op amps are good. So that leaves me to believe that it's either the LF1320 or the AM6012 DAC. Now, another thing I've noticed is the TL082 at D10 right here, which is in the Y circuit, which is the bad circuit, it's getting warm. So something is definitely wrong around this op amp here. So let me go ahead and first we'll check A10 in the X section, and I'll show you what a good signal looks like. And then I'll come down here and we'll check pin 7 on D10, and I'll show you what that signal right there looks like. So let's see if I can find my probe here. And let's see, this is A10 right here. That's the one for the X section. So pin 7, so here's pin 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll put it on pin 7. And there's our X signal coming off the op amp, the first op amp off of the DAC. And that's a good signal. Okay. So now we'll go over here to D10. This is the same op amp, but for the Y section. So same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll put it on pin 7. And there you go. That's pitiful. That's not what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to look very similar to the X signal, but of course it's different, but it's supposed to look very similar, and that is not right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the board out and get my desoldering station out, and I'm going to pull the DAC at D9, and I'm going to pull the analog switch at E10, and I'm going to put sockets in, and I have new chips, but first I might go ahead and just put new chips in and see if that fixes the problem. If it fixes the problem, then if I don't destroy these chips getting them out, which I don't think I will, I think I'll be able to get them out pretty good with my desoldering station, but you never know. If they're still good, I might pop each one in and we'll find out for sure which one was bad. So let me go ahead and do that, and when I get the new sockets and all in, I'll be back. Okay, well, we're back, and I went ahead and pulled the the DAC out, the AM6012 at D9, and I pulled the LF13201, no, 13201 at E10, which is the analog switch. And I put in sockets, and here's the DAC, and here is the analog switch. So I put new ones in, and when I was testing the board before I changed the chips, I noticed that the TL 082 right here, the op amp, was getting hot. So I went ahead and pulled it out, and I checked it in my checker. And here it is right here. Let's see if I can get it in here. And for some reason, it's checking as a LM358 or LM2904. So the chip is bad. So I went ahead and I got another one, and I checked it, and it checked good, and I put it in. So, but that didn't change anything. I noticed that, you know, the it changed the display a little bit before I made any changes. So evidently whatever was bad was putting a strain on that op amp, and it was starting to go bad. But anyway, I replaced it with a new one now, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so I went ahead and put it in, and got the board all hooked up, and I fired it up off camera. And while the Y circuit was better, it still wasn't right. Instead of the picture on the scope, the Y channel going negative, and it was now going positive. And I checked it with the voltmeter, and the output on the Y channel, the Y output, was positive 9.5 volts, which before it was a, what was it, a minus 8 volts, something like that. Anyway, so I said, uh-oh, I got a problem here. And then I got to thinking, I said, well, did I mess up putting the sockets in? And so I started thinking about it, and I said, no, I don't believe I did. I believe that's good. So I went ahead and I pulled both of these chips back out and got two more new ones and stuck them in. So now let's turn it on and see what we get. Ta-da! That is the test screen, and these extra little lines that you see, random lines in here, is just because I don't have a Z circuit hooked up in here. Now I forgot to mention, with these two first new chips I put in, the DAC and the analog switch, even though it wasn't right, I did get my Z signal back. So I was able to get a signal on my Z output here. So it almost worked, but didn't quite. So now I'm wondering, was one of these new chips bad? The analog switch, I had two different, well, the markings on them were different. I don't know if they're the same manufacturer or if they were mixed with another manufacturer. But I'm thinking maybe I got a bad lot, or one of them was bad, or it could even be the DAC. But all the DACs, I think, were the same, had the same markings and the same label on them. But nowadays, you never know when you're going to get something bad or something that's counterfeit. So anyway, let's go ahead and flip it to the game mode here. And there we go. Red bearing should be working now. I haven't plugged it into the monitor yet. That'll be the next step. we'll go ahead and plug the monitor in and see if everything looks great on the monitor. But I'm still kind of wondering about these chips now. I believe I'm going to pull them out one by one and replace them and find out if one of these chips is bad. And I still have the original chips I pulled out. I could put them in and find out which one of them is bad, or maybe both of them were bad. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that, and let's try to figure out why these two new chips didn't work. Okay, I went ahead and pulled the analog switch out, and which is an LF13201. So let's flip it on and see what happens. Okay, well, it looks like the analog switch was good. Okay, well, let me cut it back off, and next we'll pull out the DAC and find out if that's the problem. Okay, well, changed the DAC, so let's turn it on and see what happens. Ooh, okay, that's exactly what it was doing. So that brand new DAC was bad. Okay. Alright. I guess it happens. Okay. Now I went ahead and I put the original DAC that I desoldered out of the board. Put that in. So let's see if that was bad or if it was the switch. Okay. The DAC was bad, because that's exactly what it was doing before. Alright. Okay, I got the original analog switch back in here, so let's turn it on and see what happens. Okay, so the analog switch was good. The only thing bad was the DAC. Okay, so my whole problem was the AM6012 at D9. That's the DAC for the Y signal. So that was the fix that fixed my red baron. So okay, next thing we need to do is hook up the monitor, cross the fingers, and turn it on and see what happens. Okay, I got the monitor hooked back up. So let's go around the front here. And I have the interlock switch turned off right here, so I can turn it on right here on the front. So let's go ahead and turn it on, cross our fingers. Hope we don't blow the monitor up. And there we have it. Beautiful. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take it out of test mode. And there we go. Red Baron is living again. Yes. All right. Now I'll be able to play some Red Baron. Usually a video like this at the end I'll put some gameplay in, but I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to go ahead and edit this video. It's probably going to be long enough as it is, and it'll be a standalone video. And so I'm going to go ahead and button the game back up and remount the board. And when I do that, then I'll make another video showing some gameplay. So for now, this is going to be it for the Red Baron fix. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad it turned out to be relatively simple. And be sure, if you like this kind of thing, to subscribe to the channel. hit that like button and go ahead and share it to somebody that, if you think somebody might be interested in it. So, till next time, this has just been another Arcade Fix. Have you had your arcade fix today?